Chapter 23. Huh? Todd? Matt muttered, struggling to consciousness. He felt as if he were at the bottom of the ocean, trying to push himself up through the heavy swirl of waves. It wasn't Todd shaking him, it was his dad. Hey, wake up, lazy bum, Mr. Daniels called with mock anger. Huh? What time is it? Matt stared into the bright golden sunshine flooding into the room through the open curtains. We let you sleep till 10, his father said, pointing to the bed table clock. But we all have to go. Come on, get dressed. You can eat breakfast on the way to the pier. Whoa! Matt tentatively placed his feet on the floor. Am I forgetting something here? He squinted at his father, still unable to open both eyes at the same time. We're going deep-sea fishing, remember? On Dr. Miller's boat? Mr. Daniels gave Matt's shoulder a playful shove. Hurry it up, you bum! He started toward the door. I can't, Matt called to him, sinking back onto his pillow. His father turned at the doorway, a concerned expression on his handsome face. What's wrong? You sick? Yeah, Matt answered quickly. No, I don't know. What's your problem, Matt? Mr. Daniels took 2 steps back into the room, pulling down one sleeve of his white V-neck sweater. I'm just so tired, Dad, Matt said, not lifting his head from the pillow. Maybe I am coming down with something. You look really pale, his dad said, squinting at him. Maybe you need a day out on a boat in the sun. I'm too tired, Matt told him. I think I'll just stay home and try to get over this. Mr. Daniels glanced at the clock. Well, okay, he said hesitantly. Your mom and I are really late. Sure you'll be okay? Matt nodded yes. Tell the Millers I'm sorry. His father turned and started to leave. He stopped again at the doorway and sniffed the air. What's that odd smell? He asked, making a face. It's just my dead friend, Matt thought darkly. Just my dead friend come back to warn me that I've been going out with a vampire. Nothing to worry about, Dad. I don't know. It's coming from outside, I think, Matt said, yawning. Still sniffing, Mr. Daniels gave a quick, regretful wave and disappeared out the door. A few minutes later, Matt heard the back door slam. Then he heard the car start up and pull away. Alone in the house, he forced himself up. The terror of the night before swept over him, and he knew he'd vomit. Choking it back, he staggered to the bathroom and leaned over the bowl. He had dry heaves until his stomach ached, his head spinning, beads of cold perspiration covering his pale forehead. Matt sat on the cool tile floor and waited to feel better. After a minute or so, his stomach seemed to unknot, and the bathroom walls stopped whirring about. No time to lose, he told himself. I've got to warn April. I've got to. She's got to believe me this time. I'll show her the bruises on our throats. I'll tell her about Todd. She's got to believe me. I'll force her to believe me. He brushed his teeth, threw cold water over his burning face, pulled on a bathing suit, and, still feeling shaky, made his way to the phone in the kitchen. He pushed April's number and listened patiently to the ringing. Once, twice. He let it ring 10 times. No one was home. April, please, he pleaded out loud. I've got to talk to you. He stood there for the longest time, leaning against the counter, the steady ring of the phone in his ear, waiting for her voice. April, please! But no one heard his plea. After a quick breakfast, Matt tried calling April's house again. Still no reply. Feeling a little more energetic, he walked to town and searched for her there. It was a humid day, the temperature in the 90s, unusually hot for this beach community. The walk to town tired Matt. He searched Main Street and, not finding her, headed for the beach. No sign of her there either. He spent the afternoon lying on the couch in his living room, getting up every few minutes to phone April's house, letting the phone ring and ring. No one picked up. That evening, he eagerly headed to town to renew his search. Yo, Matt! A familiar voice called out as Matt headed along Seabreeze Road, the sandy path to town. He turned to see Ben, dressed in ragged denim cutoffs and a faded Def Leppard t-shirt, running to catch up with him. How's it going? Ben asked, puffing from his short run. Okay, Matt replied without slowing his pace. The sun was lowering behind the trees, but the air was still hot and humid. Matt felt prickly all over and heavy, as if he weighed 1,000 pounds. I looked for you at the beach, Ben said, struggling to keep up with Matt's long strides. It was so hot I thought you'd be there. The surf was excellent. I can't believe you left the nice cool arcade to go to the beach, Matt said dryly. It was closed, Ben admitted, chuckling. They were fixing the machines or something. I wasn't feeling well, Matt said. He really didn't want to get into a big explanation with Ben. Intent on finding April and telling her the peril they were in, he wished he hadn't run into Ben. "Yeah, you don't look too great," Ben said, studying Matt's face. "What do you mean?" Matt asked defensively. "You're kind of pale," Ben replied. A sly grin replaced his concerned expression. "Must be vampires, huh?" he teased, remembering his previous conversation when Matt explained how he'd made a complete fool of himself with April. "Huh?" Matt stopped on the path to gape at his friend. "You've been hanging out with vampires again, huh?" Ben said, repeating his joke. "Has that great-looking redhead been sucking your neck?" "I just have a virus or something," Matt said brusquely. "Hey, it was a joke," Ben snapped, his smile fading. "What's your problem, Daniels?" Matt started walking again without replying. They walked along the path in silence for a while. The rows of houses gave way to the broad, grassy field that bordered the town. The sky grew gradually darker, as if someone were turning down a lamp. "You want to go to the carnival tonight?" Ben asked. "A bunch of guys are going to check out the arcade, then head over there after dark." "Maybe," Matt said without enthusiasm. He stopped again. "Hey, there's April." She was several yards up the road, her head down, walking slowly as if searching for something. "Hey, April!" Matt shouted. "Catch you later," Ben said, and, giving April a brief hello, headed past her toward town. "April, hi!" Matt called, running to catch up to her. She stopped and raised her head. She didn't smile. "Oh, it's you? Hi?" Not much of a greeting, he realized, but he didn't care. He had to talk to her. He had to tell her what was going on. She stared at him impatiently, her face pale in the fading light, her eyes tired. Even in the descending darkness, he could see the 2 puncture marks on her throat. "I've got to talk to you," he said breathlessly. She raised a hand to cut him off. "I really don't have much time. I'm meeting Gabby in a few minutes, but I'm trying." "That's what I want to talk to you about," he cried, interrupting her. "Look at you. Look at your throat. Look at my throat." He tilted his head so she could see his neck clearly. "Matt," she began, her anger rising immediately. "Don't start." She turned her head, unwilling to examine his neck. "Just give me 1 minute," he pleaded, putting a hand on her shoulder. 1 minute, okay?" She considered it for a long moment. "Okay, 1 minute. But if you start in with that vampire stuff again, your time is up." "But that's what I want to tell you, April," he said, not meaning to sound as if he were whining, but too eager, too excited, too desperate to keep his voice down. "Gabby is a vampire, I know it. So is Jessica. They're both vampires." "Goodbye, Matt," April said coldly, rolling her eyes and motioning with both hands for him to leave. "April, listen." "No," she shouted. "Go away." "But Todd told me." She gasped, and her head snapped back as if she'd been slapped. "Huh?" "Last night, Todd told me." "Matt, you need help," she said softly, her tone growing more sympathetic. "We were all upset about what happened to Todd, but you're really mixed up or something. You've got to get help." "No, I don't," he insisted, unable to keep his frustration from his voice. "I know I'm right, April. It sounds crazy." "Yes, it does," she said, nodding, her eyes locked on his, as if trying to determine how crazy he had become. "But I know I'm right if you'd only listen to me," he begged. "I can't now," she said softly. "I'm looking for something, and—" "What? What are you looking for?" he demanded. She lowered her head again and resumed walking slowly, sliding her sandals over the sand as she moved, her eyes darting over the ground. "It's a silver cross. I was walking with Gabby last night, and the clasp was loose. It must have fallen off. I'm trying to retrace our steps." "A silver cross?" Matt asked excitedly. "And you showed it to Gabby? Did he raise his hands to protect his eyes? Did he cringe away from it? That would prove he's a vampire. He did, didn't he, April? He cringed away from it." He moved in front of her on the path, studying her face, eager for her reply. Finally, he might have some proof to back up his claim about Gabby. "Why are you acting like such a jerk?" April asked, frowning. "As a matter of fact, I showed the cross to Gabby, and he liked it." "He didn't try to hide from it?" Matt demanded. "No, he wasn't afraid of it, Matt. In fact, he helped me with the clasp." They stared at each other in silence for a moment, the sun dipping lower, the sky darkening to a rosy purple. "I guess that's the end of your theory," April said curtly. "No, it isn't," Matt insisted, following behind her as she continued her search. "Have you been feeling tired and weak lately?" "I'm not going to answer any more stupid questions," she said without turning around. "Have you seen Gabby in the daytime? Has he ever told you where he works during the day? Have you ever visited him there? Don't you wonder why he didn't have pizza that first night when all the rest of us did?" She turned angrily, balling her hands into tight fists at her sides. "Matt, you're really unbalanced." "Answer the questions, April," he insisted. You're being so stupid. I really want you to go away. No, April, I won't. Not until you listen to me. Go away, Matt, she repeated louder, and then she lost her temper and screamed, Go away, I mean it, go away. Unwilling to give up, Matt reached for her shoulder. She pulled away. A dark shadow appeared on the path, darker than the sky. Hey! Matt cried in surprise as Gabby stepped up beside April, his eyes on Matt. He was wearing black denim jeans and a dark, long-sleeved pullover despite the heat of the night. What's going on? He asked April softly, keeping his gaze leveled on Matt. Trouble? Matt, staring back at Gabby, felt the fear begin to knot his stomach, felt an icy chill course through his entire body. No trouble, April replied uncertainly. Matt stepped back, lowering his arms to his sides. He felt the power of Gabby's eyes, burning into him, searing like a laser light. No trouble? April repeated as Gabby continued to challenge Matt with his eyes. We were just talking? Gabby released Matt from his stare and turned to April, a smile crossing his face. Were you talking about me? My ears were burning. As a matter of fact, we were, April said, and took Gabby's arm. They started walking away, chatting comfortably. Matt stood motionless, watching them leave, still feeling the heat of Gabby's eyes. April glanced back once to see if Matt was following. Gabby never turned around. I know I'm right, Matt told himself, watching until they disappeared around a bend in the path. I'm going to prove it to April. I have to save her life. And suddenly, in a flash of inspiration, he knew how. Chapter 24. Where are you going with that camera? Mr. Daniels called from the living room. Matt stopped at the door. Oh, hi, Dad. I didn't know you guys were back. He swung the camera case over his shoulder and stepped back into the room. Okay if I borrow this? Do I have a choice? Mr. Daniels asked sarcastically. He gestured with his hand. Go ahead, be my guest. There are these really neat birds on the beach at night, Matt lied. I want to see if I can get some snapshots of them. His father lowered the book to his lap and eyed Matt cynically. Since when are you interested in birds? Matt shrugged. These were really neat. I don't know what they were. They chased all the terns and seagulls away. He felt bad about lying to his father, but there was no way he could have told the truth. I'm going to take pictures of a boy April is dating, and when the boy doesn't show up in the pictures, it'll prove he's a vampire. No way his dad would buy that one. Who would? There's very fast film in there, Mr. Daniels said, setting down the book and walking over to Matt. The only difficult thing about shooting at night with this camera is the focusing. Here, let me show you. Matt was eager to get to the carnival, but he couldn't just run out the door. He stood patiently while his father removed the camera from the case and showed him the best way to focus in the dark and the best shutter settings. Be careful with it, Mr. Daniels warned, as Matt hurriedly pushed open the door, fastening the camera case as he walked. I spent a fortune on that camera. Glad someone's getting some use out of it. Matt called goodnight. I'll get very good use out of it, he muttered to himself. I'm going to trap a vampire with it. His plan was to snap an entire roll of Gabby and April at the carnival. When Gabby came up invisible in every shot, April would have to believe Matt. The proof that Gabby was a vampire would be right there. Half jogging, half walking, he made his way to the carnival grounds. Stepping into the white light of the powerful spotlights, his eyes surveying the spinning, whirling, toppling rides, his ears filled with the delighted squeals and shrieks, Matt suddenly remembered that he had arranged to meet Jessica at the beach. Too bad, he thought bitterly. Maybe when I don't show up, she'll take the hint. Maybe she'll realize that I've caught on, that I know what she is and what she's been doing to me. He raised a hand to his throat and felt a warm pang. Jessica is so beautiful, he thought, so exciting. He could suddenly smell the fragrance of her perfume, so sweet, so sharp. The carnival appeared to melt in a blur of white light. He felt drawn to it, drawn to the beach, drawn to her soft red hair, to her dark lips. No! Gripping the camera case with both hands, he strode purposefully past the Ferris wheel, his eyes searching the crowd. A group of little kids came running past, eager to get to the next ride, and nearly knocked him over. He grabbed onto a pole to regain his balance. He checked the camera. It seemed okay. After a short search, he spotted April and Gabby holding hands in line for the Ferris wheel. Quickly, his hands shaking with excitement, Matt pulled off the leather camera case, letting it hang around his neck, and raised the camera to his eye. Someone stepped in front of him, blocking the view as he clicked the first shot. Sorry, a woman's voice called, already several yards away. Keeping to the side of a refreshment booth, Matt moved a few feet closer and snapped again, and again. He refocused, moved a little closer, made sure the light was right, and snapped again, making sure that both April and Gabby were in the frame. April looked up. Matt ducked back against the side of the booth. Had she spotted him? He watched her intently, poking his head out gingerly from beside the wall of the booth. No, she turned back to Gabby. He didn't want to be seen. Gabby, he knew, would immediately guess what Matt was up to. Matt shuddered. There was no telling what Gabby might do to keep Matt from getting his proof. He waited out of sight until he saw them board the Ferris wheel. Using the built-in zoom lens, he snapped them sitting side by side in the metal car. He followed them after their ride as they made their way along the row of game booths. Trailing behind, keeping on the other side of the wide aisle, Matt clicked snapshot after snapshot. He tried to ignore how close they seemed, how happy April seemed to be with Gabby, how comfortable they seemed with each other. All that would change, he kept assuring himself, as soon as his pictures proved the truth about Gabby. With just a few shots left on the film, he stepped into the center of the crowded aisle as April and Gabby stopped to watch the carousel. April turned suddenly and spotted him. At first, she pretended she didn't recognize him. Then, knowing that Matt was watching, she turned back to Gabby, put her arm around him affectionately, and kissed him on the cheek. "That's okay, April," Matt thought glumly, replacing the camera in its case. "You'll feel differently when I show you the truth. You'll feel differently after I've saved your life." He didn't blame her for being angry at him. He'd given her no reason to believe him. But now he had the reason right in his hands. He had to get the pictures developed as quickly as possible. He had to show them to her as quickly as possible. Watching April snuggle up against Gabby, their fingers entwined, leaning against each other as a carousel spun behind them, Matt knew he had to hurry. Holding the camera tightly with both hands, he turned and ran from the carnival field. Someone called to him, Ben probably, but he didn't stop or turn around. He crossed the parking lot, cutting through the rows of cars, and jogged onto Main Street. The 1 hour film developing store was just a block away on the corner of Dune Lane. 1 hour, Matt thought, his excitement driving him on as he made his way through the couples and small groups of people strung along Main Street. Just 1 hour and this nightmare will be over. He called back an apology to a middle-aged man, holding a double-dip ice cream cone he had accidentally run into, then bounded across Dune Lane without stopping at the corner to check for traffic. A blue station wagon squealed to a halt at the corner. The driver yelled something at Matt. 1 hour is all Matt heard. 1 hour to get my photos. 1 hour to get my proof. He grabbed the doorknob on the store's front door, turned it, and pulled hard. It took him several seconds to realize that the film developing store was dark and closed. Chapter 25. Matt's alarm went off at 8 the next morning. His first waking thought was of April and the film. I've got to save April. I've got to show her the pictures, the proof. He pulled on some clothes, slugged down a glass of orange juice, and hurried out of the house before his parents had even awakened. As he jogged to town, he kept one hand in his jeans pocket, wrapped tightly around the plastic canister of film. A fog had rolled in off the ocean during the night. It was slowly lifting as Matt arrived on Main Street, but the sky was still overcast, the air cool, and patches of mist floated among the low buildings. Like most of the shops in Sandy Hollow, the film developing store didn't open till 10. Matt wandered back and forth along the nearly deserted street, his hand still wrapped protectively around a roll of film in his pocket. He didn't stop to look in store windows. He kept walking, pacing impatiently, checking his watch every 5 minutes. As he paced back and forth along the street, he had the troubling feeling that Gabby might pop up suddenly, force him behind one of the stores, and steal the film from him, steal away his proof. But, of course, that was foolish. Gabby would never appear in the daylight. Seeing that it was still only 9:30, Matt took a seat at the counter in the Seabreeze coffee shop and ordered a cup of coffee. He hated the taste of coffee, but he had to do something to kill the next half hour. Filling the cup up to the brim with milk, he sipped it slowly, wondering why people liked the bitter taste so much, his eyes on the neon-circled wall clock behind the counter. He was back at the film developing store at 5 to 10, just as the manager, a young man with spiked red hair and a green emerald-like stud in one ear, was unlocking the door. "Morning," he said wearily, studying Matt before letting him into the store. "You're here bright and early." Matt pulled the plastic film canister from his pocket and set it down on the glass counter. I have this film," he stammered. I'm kind of in a hurry." The manager removed a container of coffee from a paper bag and slowly pulled off the plastic lid, eyeing Matt. "It'll take me a while to get the machine up and running," he said, yawning. "But I can have the prints in an hour?" Matt asked eagerly. The young man shook his head. "Come back around 11:30. He wrote down Matt's name and local phone number. We have a special this week on the second set of prints, half price for a second set of 3x5s. No thanks, Matt replied. 11:30? They'll be ready? The young man nodded. These must be some pretty hot photos, he said, leering at Matt. Maybe I'll want to make a set for myself. He laughed loudly to show that he was joking, but Matt turned and hurried out without cracking a smile. Back on Main Street, he thought of April. I should call her, he thought, and find out where she's going to be at 11:30. He began to search for a payphone, then changed his mind. I'd better wait till I have the proof in my hands, till I have the snapshots showing April and no Gabri. She probably wouldn't talk to me on the phone anyway. Too nervous to hang around town for the next hour and a half, Matt headed to the beach. The fog was still low, forming a heavy gray cloud that hovered over the ocean, darkening the sand and keeping sunbathers away. He walked along the dunes for a while, trying to will time to move faster. He was back at the developing store at 11:20. The young man greeted him with an apologetic smile. Sorry. Huh? Matt didn't grasp his meaning. Sorry, am I too early? You don't have my prints? Yes to both, the store manager replied, scratching his heavily slicked spiky red hair. The machine is down. What do you mean? Matt asked shrilly, his heart pounding. It's just a gear. I called the other store in Newton's Cove for replacement. But when will you have it? Matt demanded. The young man shrugged. I'm open till 7 tonight. Come back around then, just to be safe. He picked up a local newspaper from the folding chair behind the counter. I'll have them for you at 7. No problem. Somehow Matt managed to pass the time. The sun never did come out. The afternoon sky brightened to a white glare, but the air continued to carry a damp chill. He dozed off in the afternoon, sleeping fitfully, images of Jessica floating in his mind. Those kisses, those soft, wet kisses. He awoke frightened. He had to resist Jessica, even in his dreams. Evening was only a little darker than the day had been. He pulled on a clean t-shirt, brushed his hair, checked his wallet, and headed out of the house. What a wasted day, he thought glumly. Well, it wouldn't be a waste if the pictures came out the way he was sure they would. It wouldn't be a waste if April finally believed him, if he could convince her never to see Gabri again. Hey, there you are, the manager of the film developing store said, grinning as Matt rushed into the store at a few minutes before 7. Matt didn't bother with any polite greeting. Have you got 'em? The young man nodded and plopped a fat envelope of photos on the counter. That's some camera, he said, whistling. What kind is it? I don't know, Matt said, closing his hand over the envelope of pictures. It's my dad's. The pictures came out? Yeah, they're good and clear, considering the lighting. Some were a little out of focus. Enough chit-chat, Matt thought impatiently. How much? He asked, reaching for his wallet with a trembling hand. A few seconds later, he bolted through the door and around the corner to the back of the store. Leaning against the painted shingle wall, he pulled a stack of glossy photos from the envelope. I've got to be right, he thought, offering up a silent prayer. His stomach knotted, his entire body tensed in anticipation. I've got to be right. Focusing in the dim light, he flipped slowly through the snapshots. They were all pretty grainy, some more out of focus than others. But yes. Matt was right. There was April in photo after photo, smiling at an invisible companion, holding hands with an invisible companion, arm in arm with an invisible companion, seated in the Ferris wheel beside an invisible vampire. The thrill of it, the horror of it, struck Matt all at once. Nearly dropping the photographs, he fell back against the building wall, gasping for breath. It took nearly a minute to recover. Even though it was only a little past 7, the heavy clouds overhead made it as dark as midnight. Gabri, he knew, would once again be on the prowl. April, I'm coming, he thought, carefully slipping the envelope of snapshots into his back pocket. I'm coming to save you from him. Please be there, April. You'll have to believe me this time, so please be there. He tried calling her house from the payphone on the corner. No answer. He searched the town for her, starting at the movie theater at the south end, studying the faces of the people lining up for the first show, then crossing Dune Lane to Swanee's. She wasn't in the ice cream parlor or the arcade next door. Please be there, April. Please. He made his way to the end of the street, crossed over, and hurried along the other side, poking his head into restaurants and clothing shops, his eyes surveying each couple, each person, each group of people who passed. April, please, where are you? He searched the town for nearly an hour without success. He checked his watch. Nearly 8:15. Shoving the photos in his back pocket, he decided to try the beach. Jogging along Seabreeze Road, the ocean wind in his face, he could feel his tension tighten his muscles, feel his fear knot his stomach. Tears of cold perspiration ran down his cheeks. His legs felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds. But he had to find her. He had to show her the danger she was in. The beach shimmered silvery blue in the darkening twilight. Low waves caught the last movements of sunlight, red streaks on the rolling dark green surface. April, please be there, please? The beach was dotted with people, enjoying the last moments of evening light. As Matt made his way across the dunes toward the water, the sun dropped away. The air immediately grew colder. The sky darkened as if someone had turned off a light. Twice he thought he saw her. The girls were blonde and thin and carried themselves like April, but they weren't April. They turned to stare at him, startled by his intensity, by the desperation of his gaze, the heaviness of his breathing as he continued his frantic search. Before Matt realized it, he was nearly to the rowboat dock at the edge of the beach where the tall rock cliff jutted out into the water. 3 rowboats bobbed there, bumping against the dock. April, where are you? Where? There were very few people here. He knew he should turn back. He was breathing so loudly, thinking so hard, his sneakers crunching over the pebbly sand. He didn't hear the voice until it called for the 3rd time. Matt! Hey, Matt! Stop! Jessica! He stopped and crouched over, resting his hands on his knees, gasping, struggling to catch his breath. Matt, were you looking for me? Her hair floated behind her, carried by the wind as she ran to him, her eyes aglow, her pale skin almost ghostly in the early moonlight, her lips curled in a warm, inviting smile. Were you looking for me? Here I am. She spoke so softly, so tenderly, her voice nearly a whisper on the wind. I missed you yesterday, honey. Her eyes found his. He stared at her mouth. He remembered the kisses, the wonderful kisses. Her eyes seemed to draw him near, to pull him to her. I missed you so much, Matt. Where were you, honey? She moved closer until she was almost touching him. Her eyes stayed on his, holding him as if in a spell, holding him prisoner as she moved even closer. And he hungered for one kiss. Just one. He stood up, still breathing hard. Just one kiss, he thought. And then, over her shoulder, he saw something. His eyes broke the spell, and he saw someone. Someone at the tiny dock. Someone helping someone into the rowboat as it bobbed unsteadily on the rolling waves. April. Gabby was helping April into the narrow boat. No. Jessica put her arms around Matt's shoulders. Her perfume invaded his nostrils. He inhaled deeply, unable to resist it. April was sitting in the rowboat now. Gabby was taking the oars. No. Jessica pulled Matt to her, dizzy from the perfume. He peered over her shoulder as Gabby began to row and the rowboat slid away from the dock. I missed you yesterday, Matt, she whispered, lowering her head and pressing her lips against his earlobe. The rowboat moved easily from the dock, Gabby rowing steadily, effortlessly. Just one kiss, Matt thought, drowning in the perfume. Just one. The rowboat was disappearing into the darkness, heading toward the tiny island offshore. April and Gabby, rowing away forever. No, Matt screamed aloud, and pushed away from Jessica, pushed her hard. Her mouth opening wide in astonishment, she staggered back, and Matt made his escape. Matt, come back, she called after him. But he was running to the dock now, away from her eyes, away from the perfume, away from her powers, running full out, his sneakers sliding over the sand, panting loudly, eyes on the dock where 2 remaining rowboats bobbed in the water. The photos dropped from his back pocket as he ran. He hesitated for only a moment, then kept running. No time for photos now, no time for accusations and proof. Gabby was rowing April away, rowing April to the mysterious wooded island where all the bats lived. No time. Matt ran onto the dock and didn't stop until he reached the end. April, he called, cupping his hands around his mouth, trying to shout over the ocean wind. April, he called. She didn't turn around. She didn't hear him. The rowboat was a dark silhouette now, shimmering ghost-like as it moved into the blackness. I'm too late, Matt whispered to himself.